The Auditor General's report reflects its findings in respect of two types of audit conducted every year on government agencies. The first concerns whether the accounts of the government are reliable and prepared in accordance with the law. The second concerns the rules and procedures in individual public agencies, for example, whether the rules and processes are adequate and have been complied with. On the former, the Auditor General's Office, or the AGO, has given the government's financial statements this year an unmodified audit opinion, as has been the case in previous years. In other words, in the AGO's opinion, the financial statements have been presented in all material respects in accordance with the applicable financial reporting framework. This means that the accounts of the ministries, departments, and organs of state have all been found to be reliable and prepared in accordance with the law. On the latter, the AGO has highlighted in its report some areas in which there have been procedural lapses and where the government agencies can do better. We take these findings seriously. Let me address Mr. Peng's question on investigating all improper payments and its recovery. I should clarify at the outset that there is no indication in the AGO report of any payments due to fraud, misfeasance, or dishonesty. The cases highlighted by AGO this year largely concerned overpayments and payments made without prior approval, arising from human error, negligence, or failure to follow established procedures. In each of these cases, agencies have been taking prompt actions to recover any monies which might have been erroneously paid out. AGO noted that SCORE has recovered the overpaid amounts. EDB has completed the remedial action for all payment-related lapses, including recovery of monies in the two incidences of overpayments. MSF is also taking corrective actions to make good under reimbursements and to recover over reimbursements for the government-paid paternity leave scheme. MOH also completed its review of the claims by its agents and service providers. There is no overpayment as the additional sums claimed by its agents have not been paid out. MOH will only be reimbursing its agents for the correct amount due to them. The government agencies are taking the necessary corrective actions in respect of the lapses highlighted in the AGO report.
Mr. Peng.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Minister. I got a question because in the AGO report, there's also like language used like there's no assurance that the ministry exercise financial prudence, and also there's risk of fraud. Can any entity whose whose lapses are highlighted in the AGO report come to the conclusion that there's no fraud? Because the AGO report is not forensic in nature. So that's my question.
Mr. Peng referred to the ministry in his clarification. May I inquire which ministry? MOH. Mr. Speaker, I think what the Honourable Member is really asking is whether an AGO report can prove a negative. You can't prove a negative. One does not go around looking to see whether I can disprove or show that there is no fraud. An audit, by its nature, selects samples. It looks at the samples and it considers whether the system as a whole is robust, and if it picks up a point that the system in itself has got inefficiencies or deficiencies, it will highlight it. An audit, by its nature, also, if it encounters a specific lapse or specific error, such as overpayment or under reimbursement, it will also highlight that. So what an audit does really is it does sample checks. It sees whether the system as a whole is robust and efficient, and it highlights specific lapses that it may encounter. That is the nature, not just of an audit by AGO, but all audits.
Mr. Peng.
Thank you, sir. Just one last clarification. Although the AGO audit is not forensic, so technically you cannot detect fraud. But in the aftermath of the report, when it was released, MOH in its statement said that based on the AGO report, there was no indication of fraud or corrupt practices, which the AGO report did not say. So, and then the statement went on to say that warrants no further investigation required. So would the minister comment on that? Because I think no one should take the AGO report as something that, as an endorsement that there's no fraud. AGO only highlight lapses like what you say is selective audit. You know, as such, the AGO report, when it came out, the language they use is quite similar to what was also used previously, we've encountered before. So it's not a forensic thing. So I think no ministry should take for granted that because it's not mentioned that there's no fraud, that means no fraud, it doesn't warrant any further investigation.
Mr. Speaker, the honourable member may have misunderstood the nature of an audit. An audit will highlight or precipitate a forensic inquiry if there is reason to do a forensic inquiry. So if you go in and if you find there is conflict of interest, for example, payment to related third parties, or that your system as a whole enables the same person to approve a payment, submit a request for payment, and sign a check for payment, that would require a forensic investigation. But if when you go in and you find that there is, in the MOH case, a possibility of an overpayment, which actually has not even occurred, and you point it out and you can rectify it, and if the nature of that is because, as I have explained earlier, human error or negligence or non-compliance, that in itself does not trigger a forensic audit. So what you have to do is you have to look at the nature of the lapse. Is it something that requires a further and deep investigation, or is it something that does not? In this case, as I explained earlier, the financial statements of the government are fair and accurate. They are reliable. So you can take the statements as reliable. Then the second part of the audit is you look to see whether or not the rules and processes are adequate and have been complied with. In this case, it would appear that the rules and processes are adequate, but in some cases, they were not complied with. That does not necessitate a forensic investigation. So it is quite correct for MOH to say that the audit did not, in this instance, disclose evidence of fraud.